been chasing how it feels. Nights alive with the growl of beast. Metal hearts never find their peace. Horsepower obsessed. Yeah, horsepower obsessed. Horsepower obsessed.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Corvettes at Carlisle 2026. Again, we are here with another member, an important member of the Corvette team. So we had Trevor on a little bit ago, and Josh was kind enough to agree to come back and answer some more questions for us. So hopefully you guys have brought your Corvette questions, because I can't think of a better person to answer them than Josh at this point. So some of the questions I guess we might roll over. The ones that Trevor couldn't answer, we'll see if Josh can answer. And then of course we got a bunch of questions on top of those as well.
Right.
So again, we're live on the scene here at Corvettes at Carlisle. So I'm counting on your questions to ask Josh. I got plenty of my own, but I want to ask yours because you guys are the ones that run this thing. So Josh, thank you for coming over. I really appreciate it.
Yes.
I know he's a super busy guy. Of course, when you come to Carlisle, all the Corvette guys want to talk Corvettes, so
Yes.
it's very
Great place
difficult.
to be.
It's a good problem to have, but it is kind of an issue whenever we're trying to make things happen at a certain time. So, Josh, if you could just tell me your position with the Corvette and what you do kind of daily.
Yeah, I'm the chief engineer. I have my dream job. That's what I tell people, and it's the absolute truth. I grew up in northwestern Montana. My parents bought a Corvette when I was very young, and I was hooked from there. So moved to Michigan to hopefully one day get a chance to work on the Corvette team, and now doing this role with this amazing group of talented people on this car at this time. There's no better place to be.
Perfect. I'm going to ask a question I know is going to come up in here. What Corvette, or do you drive a Corvette currently?
I do drive a Corvette, yes.
Which one?
The one I drove here is a Grand Sport X.
Okay.
So most of us are often in pre-production Corvettes. We call them captured test fleet cars. It's our last chance to make sure that the quality is exactly where we want it to be before we sell cars to customers.
Sure.
But many of us are also Corvette fans. And so I have some of my own that I drive when I'm not driving the company car. But yeah, it goes back to what I said before. Just grew up a Corvette nut and enjoy driving them wherever I can. I came here to Carlisle from Atlanta.
Oh, wow.
So I drove from Michigan to Atlanta, and then from Atlanta back to Carlisle, and then Sunday we'll head back to Michigan. So that's a testament to how much I like being behind the wheel of a Corvette.
And that was all in the Grand Sport X?
Yes.
Nice. So what, you mentioned you have some personal Corvettes. Which Corvettes do you own personally?
I do. The oldest I have is a 65. That's a Resto mod. Pretty
wow.
cool car I worked on with my father. And the newest I have is a 2006 Z06.
Nice. Okay. So Corvette guy through and through. We got to love that. So we got a bunch of questions coming in here already, and we're going to get to all these. Keep the questions coming, guys, because I'm going to ask him as much as I possibly can. There are questions I'm not going to bother him with. Just like with Trevor, if you ask about future products or future possible products, I'm not going to say a word to him about that. So I'm not ignoring you, but I'm kind of ignoring
You can
it.
ask me and I'll ignore them.
There you go. So let's start with the very first one here. We had a question that was raised to Trevor, and he didn't really have an answer for it, but this question is asking about why or if you guys considered E85 for the ZR1.
We did not. And the reason is there's a few of them, but one is we wanted to simplify the fuel system for the majority of customers that are going to have access to 93 octane fuel and above. E85 has some benefits. It allows for, it's got certainly higher octane, so you can use higher, different ignition curves that can help boost power. They also will tax the intercooling charge system a little bit more than when you're doing that kind of advanced ignition timing. And so we've designed the car, the intercooling system, around pump fuel and didn't want to complicate it by adding the ability for E85. And the car makes plenty of power.
Right.
And in fact, it's really at the engine's hardware limits for boost and power. So in this case, the way we designed the hardware, E85 would have had to been tuned in a way that wouldn't have made more power.
Okay, good answer. Also, did you guys ever consider carbon, any kind of like actual carbon or a fixed back bucket style seat because of how fast these cars are getting, something more race inspired on top of the competition style seats?
Certainly we've considered it and talked about it. The cars have certainly become very, very capable just in the last few years with the 8th generation Corvette. We offer 3 seats that we're proud of, including the competition seat, which is a pretty aggressive seat.
Agreed.
I will say that on our own cars, our track development cars, for safety reasons, the pre-production cars, we use a carbon bucket seat. But once we're done with the final tuning and have all of our production approvals, those same drivers are setting all these track records, generally using the comp seat. So it's not something that we consider, but didn't use them for the 8th generation Corvette.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, we're going to talk about some Corvettes. Let's see. What is your favorite system to work on? Powertrain, chassis, suspension?
Oh boy, that's like trying to pick your favorite kid. Well, my role as a chief engineer, I get to see all of it. And so like many engineers, we love solving problems, getting into challenges and overcoming them. So I'm not really going to answer this question because honestly, I don't have a favorite. We like to work on whatever the challenge is to overcome. Certainly powertrain and engines are very interesting. To me personally, my master's degree is in internal combustion engines, so I like them as a general interest anyway. And what that team has been able to do of late with the LT7 and the power and capability of that, and then to top it off this year with the LS6, it's a pretty cool place to be a part of and watch what happens there behind the scenes as that team overcomes problems and challenges and makes great products.
Awesome. So one question that did come up with Trevor was, and this might be your future thing that you can't answer, but any plans to take the ZR1, ZR1X, or any of the C8s back to the Nürburgring?
We have no near-term plans to go to the Nürburgring. We were just there recently, and the Nürburgring is a pretty massive undertaking, just logistically, working out track rentals with Nürburgring, getting lucky with weather, which is out of anyone's control. In fact, we rented the track 2 different times, separated by time, trying to plan against any adverse weather that would be out of our control. And shipping the equipment and the people to the track is a major undertaking. So we go to the track. The Nürburgring for us is really a test bed, and that's why we go there. And I would say that at some point in Corvette's future, we'll be back there again doing testing and development, not necessarily to go try to set another track record.
Gotcha. Can we expect to see more customer Corvette GT3 cars / teams next year?
We are still working on customer Corvette race cars, still building customer Corvette race cars, so I would say yes. The race team is a strong partner with us. They are looking to expand our footprint in racing, which is exactly what the customer GT3 program has done for us. At any given weekend, especially in the summer, there's generally a Corvette racing somewhere in the world, and it's been great for us.
What was the thinking behind the Grand Sport X in the LT trim family rather than LZ like the E-Ray? I would like to have a 3LZ interior with carbon fiber wheel and the GSX.
So the Grand Sport and Grand Sport X are meant to be in the same family of cars. So the trim level strategy for equipping those cars is similar. As to not to confuse customers with content. And by the way, a 3LT and a 3LZ have very subtle differences, but I get what this question's aimed at. Our approach to simplify marketing, dealer experience, and customer order experience was to put both of those cars in the LT bucket so the order guides are common and less complicated.
Okay. One of the questions I know comes up often is because it's in the LT and not the LZ trim family, is that they can't do the carbon fiber steering wheel, the level 2 carbon, that kind of thing. So that's pretty much just to sum up what that question was really asking.
And I understand it. We are reserving those for now for the LZ trim to make those slightly more special if you choose to equip your car with that option. Remember, our price point for the Grand Sport and Grand Sport X is a very approachable price point by intent. And that's another reason to lean into that LT trim strategy.
Gotcha. Do you have 0 to 60 numbers on the Grand Sport X yet?
Yes. Do you want to know what they are?
I would love to know what they are.
Grand Sport X does 0 to 60 in 2.4 seconds.
Very nice. So is that publicly known yet?
It is.
I don't know if I've seen that yet.
Yeah.
2.4.
I guess we got to talk about it more, but yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say,
it's out
I
there.
haven't. I don't think I've heard that. Did you?
Yeah.
Did you guys know that?
Yeah.
There we go. These are all
Yeah.
Corvette people. So
Yeah.
that's awesome though. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
2.4 seconds, guys. That's fast.
Yes.
Let's see. Thank you for engineering an amazing American car.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. And it's not, obviously, it's not just me. There's a team of thousands
Sure.
that work on this car.
Looking back at the C8 Stingray, what's one design decision you'd change today, and what prevented it originally?
This will sound like a prepped answer, but I don't think there is one thing that I would necessarily change about the Stingray. In fact, the Stingray is the car I am, and I'll bet if you asked most of the team what car they're most proud of doing, it's the Stingray.
Yeah.
Because it's a car that nobody else can do.
Yep.
You can't get a car for $74,000 and go 200 miles an hour.
Right.
Certainly we learned a lot along the way.
Sure.
And we were conservative with the execution of the Stingray and all 8th generation Corvettes because, number one, we had nearly 70 years of Corvette legacy by which the mission was do not screw this up.
Right.
But everyone knew and still knows and now has been proven the goodness of a mid-engine layout and architecture.
Sure.
And so things like, one I can think of as an example, acoustic treatment between the engine and the passenger compartment. So we have a very thick piece of glass between the compartment because there are great engine noises. There's also bad engine noises.
Right.
You typically don't want to hear an accessory drive on an engine, and it's right behind your ear.
Yep.
And so there's things like that where after some refinement, we could have maybe tuned it a little bit differently, taken some mass out of the car potentially. But there's nothing fundamental about, oh, I wish we would have done this in a completely new and different way.
Okay. Did you have you ever considered Active Aero for any of the C8 lineup?
I've been talking with colleagues about Active Aero since the C6 ZR1. So, yes, Active Aero has been considered. It's not a new idea. We chose not to do it so far on Corvette because we do very, very efficient fixed aero systems. That's our plan. It's not that we don't acknowledge that Active Aero can provide some goodness,
Sure.
and certainly some competitors do Active Aero, but our focus is on the simplest fixed aero solution, the simplest, lightest fixed aero solution we can do and make it as efficient as possible.
So I know whenever the ZR1 first came out, Taj was actually asked about the Active Aero possibility, and he said that the biggest reason they didn't do it was because it didn't need it.
Yeah, that's if you look at lap times between an efficient fixed aero vehicle and an equivalent, which is hard to do a direct comparison because usually aero is not the only change.
Right.
But an equivalent active aero device, you're reaching the asymptote of performance. So you're getting performance gains, but not nearly as much performance as you can get from something like a tire
Right.
or engine power. And so our approach again has been super efficient fixed aero systems.
What is one feature you personally would like to see added to a Corvette?
Boy, these are good questions.
Right?
Especially without prep.
We can come back to it if you like.
So this is me, and by the way, this is why everyone has different opinions. We don't
Sure.
always do what one person does.
Right.
I wouldn't mind seeing a fixed roof C8 without a removable roof.
I love
Here's
that.
the challenge. No one will buy that car.
Yeah.
That's why we're not doing it.
It's interesting because you guys obviously did a fixed roof coupe for the C6.
We did.
And there was a lot of people that bought, even the C5, there was a fixed roof coupe. And that was one of the, to me, one of the nicest looking models was the fixed roof coupe or the Z06.
Yep.
And same with the C6 lineup. So I think a fixed roof coupe on a C8 would also possibly introduce something else as an option, which would be a roof scoop, which I've heard a lot of people asking for.
It could open the door to a roof scoop. It could open the door to some structural changes that could reduce mass on the car potentially. And that was our formula for starting with the 6th generation. It's the first time we introduced an aluminum frame, and we got that torsional and bending stiffness back by fixing the roof in the car.
Gotcha.
It's just, when those cars were out, we had a lot of people asking, why can't I get this in a convertible? Why can't I take my top out?
Exactly.
And so that's why we've rightly so done what we've done.
Yeah, and I think honestly, a lot of the the demand for the Corvette, you guys obviously have to weigh options, and I know it might have been you that said publicly on the you got to vote with your wallet kind of thing.
Yes.
And that was for the manual transmission
Yes.
questions, of course. But I like that because obviously, if people aren't buying it, why would you even bother wasting the time setting it up, selling it, all that
Right.
stuff?
Part of our formula that makes the Corvette recipe so successful and so attainable for most people is that thoughtful approach to business.
Right.
You want to make sure that whatever investment you make in the product brings back a return so that we can keep selling products that most people can get into.
Right. Was the interior refresh always a plan, or was it due to kind of a public reaction to the wall of buttons?
No, it was always a plan. I will say it's a little bit of both. It was always a plan to do a mid-cycle on the 8th generation Corvette, and we debated maybe doing some stuff on the exhaust. It's good that we're right by the exhaust.
Right, yeah.
But we ultimately landed on doing a refresh that all cars would enjoy from an updated cockpit experience. We do listen to people at events like this.
Right.
And the wall of buttons was a critique that we knew if we did a new interior, we could change in a meaningful way. But that wasn't the reason for doing it. It just happened to be an opportunity we could take advantage of. The real reason for some of the changes was that the Corvette before that had one of the smallest displays. It's a small cockpit,
Right.
but it had one of the smallest displays in the company. And nothing ages faster than a display, so we wanted to keep Corvette fresh and modern.
That's a great point. Are you excited seeing the mods here that people do with their cars, and does this influence Corvette at all to maybe implement some of those mods?
So we're hearing more exhaust notes.
More than enough exhaust.
So there's a modification that we've leaned into.
Yeah.
So it's obvious that people are doing things like that, and we get live feedback. That's why we come to events like Corvettes at Carlisle. And one of the feedback that we've received was we would like a louder exhaust system on the standard Corvette. And so in 2027, you can get a center exit exhaust with a valved muffler. When that valve is open, it's basically from cat to tailpipe. So it's almost that loud. And now customers can get that experience from the factory. So while we're not, obviously endorsing any one product that anybody does, we love seeing what people do. There's a lot of creativity in events like this.
Sure.
And it's a survey that you don't have to take when you see people taking advantage of certain focus areas in the aftermarket.
Other than the exhaust, is there any mod that you can think of that was something that was kind of inspired by one of these events that you saw or somebody saw and decided to put on the C8 because of the way they...
There's a lot of things that were born at least in part due to feedback at events like this. Performance data recorder.
Oh, really? Nice.
That's one. The battery tender charger, which a lot of people store their cars in the winter.
Yep.
And it's, of course, not just from Corvettes at Carlisle, but real-time customer feedback. We also find, for example, when we're debating how much storage space to put in any Corvette design, and we see people from all over the country coming to Corvettes at Carlisle, we don't have to ask people if they need luggage space.
Right.
We know because they came here.
Right.
And they're staying overnight and they brought a suitcase with them. So it's things like that that help us stay in tune with what our customers like.
This one's going to be really loud, so we'll take a second here, guys. All right, so this is going to be more of a hypothetical. I'm going to word this a little bit differently. Could you personally ever see a carbon fiber tub being an option on a Corvette?
Ever is a long time.
I know.
So I never say never, and ever goes along with it. I'll say this: we have benchmarked the aluminum structure that all C8s share, which in itself is quite amazing. If you look at the bandwidth of 8th generation Corvette lineup, for them to share all that same foundational structure is a good testament to thoughtful planning, but more importantly, a great testament into precision engineering. We've benchmarked that against monocoque competitors, just taking like parts for crash and primary load cell on a body structure, and we're not heavier than them.
Oh, wow.
And so part of the challenge with the monocoque, besides the fact that it's expensive, and I know we'll have people say, well, I'll pay for it. Sure you will. But
yeah,
anyway,
exactly. Vote with your wallets.
Some will. I don't doubt that some will. But it is a very low volume, labor intensive process. That's why it's expensive.
Sure.
But carbon is really good in tension. That's why it was designed, actually. It also happens to be a decent shear panel because the stresses are mostly tensile. But when you start to bend or crush, carbon is no better than many other composite materials. It's actually worse than most metals. And so that's when things like all the different loads that most people don't think about because they don't plan to crash their Corvette. But when you consider all those load cases, generally it's hard to beat lightweight, thoughtful designed aluminum.
Okay. One question, I believe it was you that answered at the bash, was about the underbody air deflectors.
Mm-hmm.
The question came up, and it's interesting that question came up and that you answered it, because I was actually one of the first ones to put this out on YouTube as a noted ambient temperature difference in the rear hatch / trunk area. From installing them on my Z06, I've used an infrared thermometer before and after and noted almost a 50-degree difference in ambient temperature. Didn't affect the engine or the transmission temperatures, but ambient temperature in that area was lower. Mm-hmm. You said that basically the European cars get that and that there's not really a benefit to the American cars, but now it looks like they're coming for the 27 Stingray and the 27 Grand Sport.
Yep.
So what changed?
The exhaust manifold.
So those
the
are specifically...
LS6 has a completely different exhaust manifold. It's tri-Y instead of the 4-into-1 style that the LT2 had. The shape of the exhaust manifold is routed in a very different way, and the way it's routed heats up spark plug wires.
Oh.
So those shields are to direct airflow to spark plug wires while the car is being exercised in the way it was meant to be driven on a track. You wouldn't need them for normal street driving. As far as compartment temperatures, those, because they're moving some air through the compartment, will cool the compartment while the car is moving.
Sure.
But if you're idling around in city traffic in Phoenix in July, those things aren't doing anything for compartment temps.
Right.
And so that's why I stick behind what I said before. LT2s do not need, I'm going to use the word need, they do not need those. Whatever customers want to do to customize their Corvette and make it their own, if it gives them some psychological benefit in certain use cases, go for it. But your car does not need them.
Okay. Need is definitely a great word to use there, because if you want them, you can get them.
Go for it.
All right. So I know you're not going to be able to answer this, but a front end or rear end facelift. Do you ever see that happening for the C8?
No.
He answered it. I like it. Okay, so does the electric drive motor in an E-Ray really produce 160 horsepower? Like, really 160? It will not go over 160, or, is that the absolute max?
That's the absolute max. Maybe the 160 and a half for a fraction of a millisecond, I don't know. But that really is the max. And it's a function of, electric power, current and voltage. And that power comes when you got a very full battery pack at the initial launch of that. As the battery energy depletes, that power will start to drop.
Sure.
And so the power increase on the ZR1X, now in the Grand Sport X, came not from any clever redesign in the motor, although it is upgraded to handle the power. It was from software in the battery to take advantage of more usable energy. And that's how we can get more voltage, more current out of the battery and provide more power to the electric motor.
Was the E-Ray always intended to have a short run, or what ultimately drove the decision to end it?
I wouldn't say that E-Ray was intended to have a short run, and I've put this out there, and I get there's some confusion. To me, E-Ray was maybe the most innovative Corvette that's been done, arguably, even including a mid-engine Stingray in 2020. First time we've ever done an all-wheel drive Corvette.
Sure.
And not just an all-wheel drive Corvette, but a completely decoupled all-wheel drive system that allows us to vector torque, recover energy, redeploy it in a way that brings a wide smile to your face. In a lot of ways, the E-Ray was misunderstood by some. It got out in mainstream media. A lot of people at the time thought it's an electric Corvette. Of course, we know that it is not. They thought, oh, I got to plug it in. Of course, you don't.
You're right.
And there's also the never will I ever crowd. And I'm not going to try to convince people.
Sure.
Just like the deflectors, you do you, and whatever makes you happy. But it's become proof that that hardware is no joke. Haloed by the ZR1X. And the learnings from E-Ray, built upon the foundation of those learnings, was born ZR1X and the all-wheel drive capability of that system. We would have called the E-Ray a Grand Sport X, but that would have been weird when it came out.
That's true.
We don't have a Grand Sport.
Yeah, that's very true.
And so there was always a desire to start with one name and kind of lean into another. I'm not saying we knew exactly how this was all going to work out with that model. But the foundation for which the E-Ray laid is the reason for cars like ZR1X and Grand Sport X, and it's something that I hope never changes on Corvette. And that's the spirit of continuous improvement and innovation. We're always trying to make every Corvette better than the one before it.
I like it. Will a variable height suspension ever be in a Corvette that will automatically adjust the height based on the drive mode?
There comes that ever question.
Yeah,
again.
exactly. I like those better than, hey, tell me if it's coming on a C8,
I wouldn't rule that out either. I mean, it's, who knows what's in the future. Certainly there's actually aero benefits to changing ride height for drag and downforce if you got a well-designed underbody to handle it. But there's more complexity and cost in a system that, we likely wouldn't do something that would raise the ride height. But we've elected to stay with our formula of simplistic performance, I'll call it. You get what you need in the way that you need it, and we don't overcomplicate anything just for technology's sake.
I like it. Are you hiring, or are you looking for any extra help?
I'll answer the second question first. Yes, I need help. We're always looking for help. But are we hiring as a company? Yes, General Motors is hiring. Often I talk to young, excited people that are no different than I was 30 years ago. How can I get on Team Corvette and work on Team Corvette? And I would say this relentless persistence, that was my method anyway. I think it paid off in the end. People just got sick of me asking them, when can I work on Corvette, and finally acquiesced. But passion for performance cars, I'd call it a drive, self-starter, maybe is a way to put it, where you take initiative and you want to improve. You found a problem and you got a way to make either solve it or make a situation better. And like performance cars, there's certainly a place for you. Now, it's very difficult to get on Team Corvette. This is kind of a sought-after position even inside of General Motors.
Oh, nice.
But the company itself has opportunities, and if people are interested in really having a career in Corvette engineering or even anything inside of General Motors, there are paths for them, and I would say just keep trying, keep working, and it can happen.
Was the Grand Sport ever tested with race gas?
No. I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe they're asking, could there be a spark table by which we could get more power if we used race gas? I would say the answer to that is probably yes, but we don't test for that necessarily. In fact, the only time I won't say use race gas, when we rent facilities like tracks and we're using fuel provided by that track, we'll test the octane of that fuel. And oftentimes, people shouldn't be shocked by this, octane is lower than what the fuel is advertised. So 93 is not always 93.
Absolutely right.
And so we will mix 100 octane in there to make sure it's 93, but we don't test anything higher than that.
All right, so guys, I'm seeing a lot of questions about this. I thought I answered this already, but we're not going to ask him about future products. So Z06X, future of the C8 stuff, I'm not going to ask him that stuff. So let's limit those kind of questions if we can, but otherwise, you're free to ask whatever you want. So I heard somebody say my name, so that threw me off. Yeah, see, somebody else asking about no future C8 stuff, guys. He's not going to answer it anyway. Let's see. Will there, or have you guys ever considered center lock wheels?
Yes, we've considered them. I hope people give us the benefit of the doubt that you see race car series parts like active aero and center lock wheels, and have you thought about, well, yeah, we've thought about that. It turns out that they don't generally save a lot of weight. I will admit they look super cool. I like the way they look. They don't generally save a lot of unsprung mass because at some point you have to transmit both torque and lateral loads to a hub.
Yeah.
And when you stack all that up, there's not a real mass opportunity. So that's not a reason to do it. Practical aftermarket service using a giant breaker bar to get a center lock nut apart is not a great experience for some people.
No, it's not.
And so we're sticking by our 5-bolt pattern for now, and who knows, ever again would be a long time. But I can tell you, center locks have come up a lot, and they just haven't earned their way into a plan for Corvette.
What is your favorite engine in any Corvette and why?
Favorite engine in any Corvette? Boy. I mean, an L88 is pretty sweet.
Yeah, right? That one's always one of the ones that comes up.
Yeah. That's like, it's the same, like picking a favorite child. Maybe it depends on the mission and the era.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you ignore 1,064 horsepower LT7?
Right.
It's got to be in the consideration set.
All right, so give me your favorite engine in the C8 lineup.
Well, it'd be that one.
Okay,
Yeah.
C7?
I'm gonna keep picking the high power.
I was going to say the highest one. Yeah, why not? That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. All right, so let's see what else we got here. What are your thoughts on dealer market adjustments on the ZR1 and ZR1X, especially when they push the cars far above Chevrolet's intended MSRP? This is one you don't have to answer if you don't want.
I'll reinforce what I hope most people already know, is that dealers are independent businesses. The R and MSRP is recommended selling price. It's not forced. It's a free market economy, and I understand wanting to make a profit. Do I wish they wouldn't mark them up? Of course. But I understand why they mark them up. And as long as people are willing to pay markups, it's going to keep happening. It's,
right.
Again, the free market economy. If you're personally offended by it or upset by it, then don't pay markup price. Eventually, you're going to find a dealer at some point, you may have to be patient, that's charging the suggested retail price.
Patience is a virtue, guys.
Absolutely. And I know it's hard.
So, kind of shifting gears, we asked Trevor this question, but I'm going to ask you as well. The underbody pan that sits right underneath the transmission, there are some people that have cut a hole in that to make it easier to change the transmission filter. Mm-hmm. Is there any negativity or any negative impacts on the car that you could think of that cutting that hole would cause?
Yeah, there's a loss of lateral stiffness at the control arm link.
Okay. And
so that is a shear panel. I mentioned it before for the cooling deflectors. And it is very sensitive. If you are a sensitive driver and capable of driving the car at its limits, you will notice a loss of lateral stiffness at rear control arm lateral links because it sets up what the back of the car is doing. And when you're planning a bunch of power, it can affect traction and confidence coming out of the corner. So, it's that whole making sure the car feels like you can trust it each and every time.
Yep.
And when you lose that stiffness, you may start to lose trust in the car. And that's why it doesn't have a bigger access hole to access that filter.
So I always said it had to be something structural because if not, it would have been plastic.
Right.
So you answered it the same as Trevor, so obviously guys don't go cutting holes in your transmission pans. Let's see. Okay. I think we're kind of running out of questions here at this point, so I don't want to take up all of Josh's time unless there's any other questions that you guys really need to know here. I think that's going to pretty much do it. I really appreciate you taking the time with us, Josh.
Of course, yeah.
It's been awesome talking to you. Yeah, actually, one last question, and then we're going to wrap this up with Josh. What is the main limiting factor on ZR1 and ZR1X production? Parts, carbon fiber, production issues, or the desire to make it exclusive?
None of those. It's thoughtful strategy to balance supply and demand. Remember, like I said before, this is a for-profit enterprise for Corvette, and that's one of the reasons why we can sell Corvettes that are approachable to most people. And as part of paying that investment in the lineup of Corvettes means some of the models that are going to command a higher price are paying for more than their share of the investment in the entire lineup.
Sure.
So those cars are helping the other cars. And we are in it for long term, and we want to make sure that demand, which has been great on the 8th generation. In fact, I think if you look back, it's the highest longevity in terms of sales and production that nearly any generation has had, aside from maybe the end of the 3rd generation. So it's been a long time since we've had this staying power because, let's face it, sports cars are a fashion industry. They want what they want and they want it now.
Yep.
But this has aged very well, and we want to use those cars so that we keep demand. We could have, I would call it overproduced, which if you look back at ZR1, the top of the lineup history, they did great for a model year or two and then dwindled. We want to maintain a level production supply as much as possible, more efficient, the quality is better, it's just a better way to run the business.
Perfect. Again, Josh, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. Guys, I appreciate all of you watching as well. If you could, please smash the thumbs up button. Let Josh know that his time here was not wasted. And I think that's going to do it. So again, thank you very much for coming out.
Thank you.
Guys, like, subscribe. We'll catch you in the next one.